met actually, and in 2001, so in few months, the project started. The Autistici Inventanti project started. It started with trashware. This means that used parts of computers were bought to set up a server that could be used for the project. And in June 2001, AI, Autistici Inventati, was presented to the hack meeting in Catania, Sicily. So it was June, and after 1 month, the Autistici Inventati met again, and they met in Genoa, because most of them belong to the Indie Media Network, and they set up the media center in Genoa. So they were just 1 month old, and their bond was very strengthened by this trauma they had, they understood, they started to understand that they were more important than they had thought in the beginning, perhaps. I was talking about the G8 in Genoa 2001. Everybody knows what I was talking about. Okay. And so what happened was that they started hosting the sites of the people who were documenting the events of Genoa 2001. So they became more than just a server that offered emails to some activists and websites to some people who wanted to inform about the things that happened in their neighborhood. There were people who were supporting the defense of the people who had been arrested in Genoa, for example. There were the people who were supporting the counter-information and documentation of what had happened at the Diaz school. So in 1 month, their story changed a lot. And they started offering services, and they started offering a lot more of services. Many people were asking for their services being webmails, websites, mailing lists, an IRC chat, and later other services that are currently a blogging platform, Noblogs. I think many of you will know it. And we offer a VPN to anonymize your connections. We offer an anonymizer for mails, and Jabber for instant messaging, and something more I'm forgetting, I'm sure. So what I did in this slide can be interesting about the growth of the services we offered during the years. If you click on the Inventati and Autistici, you can see here that Inventati in 2001, there was a link. Yeah. Anyway, you can see that in 2001 and 2003, these are links to our site that has evolved during the years. This is the first link of Inventati, which was, and these are all the websites of 2001, like, okay, it's like 20 perhaps. And then we have the Autistici side, and there are also 20 sites. And but in 2003 there were already hundreds. Or tens at least. This is the list of 2003 of the Autistici side. And in 2000 and 4, the Autistici and Inventanti sites melted together. Before they were different, and then they melted together. And we already had from A to Z. And we currently host hundreds of sites. I will tell you the numbers later because I don't remember them. And this is the current website, where you can request a service and access the blogging platform, ask for help and be patient, read our news and donate. And so what we wanted to do from the start, and what we still are doing also by being here, is not being a faceless provider of services that you click a button and obtain a service from, but that you don't know anything about. We have always tried to be human and to have relationships to our community and to our users, because we think this is our main strength. We don't ask for money for ourselves. We are almost 30 volunteers doing volunteering job all the time. Nobody of us is paid in any way, and we want to have a trust relationship with our users, and this means we are also very clear about what we need, and what we need is that you support us in case of hardship or with donations that are always necessary to pay for our services. But not only, we wanted to show our human side and to have a trust relationship. Even if we don't ask you to trust us with your services, with your mail, we ask you to download your mail and to encrypt it, but we want to have a trust relationship anyway with what remains. So what we did from start was the Chaos Tour, and it was something that started in 2003 in Rome, and that went on during the years. In the beginning, it was at 2 years intervals, like 2003, 2005, and 2007. And then we started to become a bit more random, but this is the plus Chaos Tour is actually a Chaos Tour, even if we call it a tour of presentations. What we did was going around and talking about the project to people in social centers and info shops around Italy, but not only. This is not the first time we go out of Italy to talk to people. We also offered like workshops, for example, also organizing with the local hacker spaces and hack clubs, who set up a whole set of events to encourage a safe use of the web, for example, or the use of open source software and free software. But of course, since we host a lot of political projects and politically involved people, we couldn't avoid the law. And so we had some legal issues. The first one being this one. This is a fake site of Trenitalia, the Italian railway society, which at the time, it was 2004, was transporting weapons for the war in Iraq. So they remade their site.
They made this spoof site. I mean, actually, if you know Italian, there is like some a motto on there, like which is proud to be doormats of the army. So, and because of that actually we got issues because Trenitalia wanted to seize basically the website, and we won. Actually, they had to pay, I think.
No, they weren't convicted in the end.
No, but they had to pay the. No, they weren't.
They weren't convicted in the end because our lawyers, because
They-
fortunately we keep finding good lawyers, showed that it actually was a parody, that it was a form of art,
Yeah, so the charge dropped.
and the charge had the judge decided that it wasn't a crime to do a parody of something. So the first charge was dropped. As you will see, so far we have had several legal issues which can be also analyzed in terms of the authorities not having understood very well what happens in the internet yet, not in Italy at least. And so,
Yeah, we will
I
see,
mean, we are preoccupied because sooner or later they will do, but in our history they showed that they didn't understand very well what it was about. We will see later what I'm talking about because the latest case is 2011 and they still showed they didn't know what it was about. So anyway, let's go on. So the first legal issue was good, and the second was not as good. The second was the most serious issue we had, and it also spurred a very radical change in our infrastructure. This case, which we can watch a video about this case because before going on and explaining what it was about, let's watch this short video.
Yeah, just for the.
It's a clip actually.
Sorry. Io non l'avevo preparata, sono una merda.
Chi è quest'uomo?
È un hacker. Valuta molto la privacy, la sua e quella degli altri. Crede nella condivisione e crede anche che le informazioni debbano essere libere. Sta portando il suo computer nella web farm di Aruba.
E cosa sta pensando?
Pensa che il suo server laggiù sarà ben trattato. Pensa anche che il servizio è un po' caro, ma che ne vale la pena. Non è facile mantenere senza scopo di lucro un servizio di email e web pubblico con più di 5.000 utenti a sottoscrizione volontaria. Di questi tempi, poi, è sempre più difficile trovare un provider affidabile.
Senti, ti devo dire una cosa.
Me la dici dopo lo spot. E non basta, fornisce anche servizi di anonimato, perché crede che sia importante diffondere gli strumenti di tutela della privacy. Ed ora è proprio soddisfatto.
Scusa, ma non sa che Aruba lascerà che la polizia sequestri i dati di tutti i suoi utenti prendendoli direttamente dai dischi? E che continuerà poi ad intascare i soldi del servizio come nulla fosse?
Sì, l'ha appena saputo. Credo che Aruba abbia perso credibilità ai suoi occhi.
Sai che non ho capito niente.
Beh, il concetto è che ti spiano, ma se vuoi puoi riguardarlo dall'inizio, tanto è digitale. Aruba, la tua fiducia.
In a more verbose way, what happened was that in 2004, in June 2004, we kept this server, our server, one server, we kept it in a web farm. We had been keeping it at friends' houses, at friends' offices, but in the end we had understood that it wasn't worthwhile. That and we actually couldn't sustain this solution anymore. So we took the server to this web farm, this commercial web farm, which we paid a lot. And in 2004, the police came to this web farm. They were inquiring on one mailbox, and they copied all the data in the server, and including the SSH keys. And they
could have been intercepted all the traffic for a whole year, basically. So
yeah, because we didn't know it. We just
we
didn't know
knew
it.
that
In 2004,
yeah.
we noticed that the server had gone down and called the Aruba web farm and asked what's happening. And they said, we have an electrical problem, while the police was scoping the server. And after an hour, the server went on again, and we just did things like we just went on. We couldn't notice it. And after a year, in June 2005, we received this document from the tribunal, the court of Bologna, who was inquiring about this one mail. And we read the document and the footnotes in a very small font. And we noticed in one of these notes in a very small font that they had copied the server content. So we understood what had happened when the electrical problem was given by Aruba web farm. Aruba, by the way, exists still. So if you ever look for a provider, you know who to trust.
Well, it's an Italian one, so...
And yeah, so we went to Arezzo, where the web farm was located, and physically took the server from the farm as soon as we had been informed.
Yeah,
about
there
the event.
was some police agent spying on us, and it wasn't really a good thing. So basically, we thought that we had to reinvent ourselves in some way and to re-engineer our infrastructure, and maybe we'll see later with some undecent diagrams. And we call that the R plan.
Yeah,
so
what happened was that we were already thinking about finding a solution to the fact that we had so many users that one server was not enough anymore. And Aruba was, the Aruba case was the thing that spurred the change, and that took us to multiply our servers and locate them in different places. And Lobo will explain this better later. And
not too technically, actually, because it would be boring.
And this was a very great effort, actually. I'm skipping it because Lobo is talking about, but this was an effort that took a year because we had to think about all the consequences of what was going on with the multiplication of servers. And after this one-year effort, at the end of the, which took place in 2005, at the end of 2006, we decided that we wanted to dance some more because we felt the need to give some other instrument of communication. The blogging platform I've talked about before, noblogs.org. This is our first campaign brand image. And we started to feel the need to give individuals the possibility of communicating, because we were seeing that indie media was starting to shake and
fall apart.
Yeah, okay.
At least in Italy.
But we knew that around the Indie Media project there had been a lot of people who had things to say, And we wanted to give them the possibility to continue to communicate in an easy way. I mean, we already gave websites, but we knew that to administer as web space was not a very easy thing for many people who had things to say but had not the time to think about the technical aspects of the problem. In the beginning, we wanted to encourage people to learn about using technology in a very aware way, and we still try. We bugger our users with newsletters on security, but we started to understand that we couldn't ask too much and that it was better to have richer communication than losing any communication. So no blogs was, these were the reasons that took to no blogs, and one other wish we had, and which has partly been turned into reality, is the possibility of creating networks through these blogs. Actually, noblogs.org has a strange platform for creating networks, which is not very much used. But some groups do exist. When you create your user, you also have the possibility to access this social network called BuddyPress, which is a plugin of WordPress, actually. And some groups have arisen. The radical feminists in Italy use noblogs a lot, and this has also given place to a feminist blog camp, which was at its second edition at the end of October. They're not the only group, but I mean, some networks have arisen. We would like to have some more, but we start to think that we should look for some other technology to do this. And now we should go back to legal cases and to the poverty and pittiness of politicians and forces of security. This case was not even a legal case. I mean, they tried to turn it into a legal case, but it just ended up as a ridiculous case. Molle Industria is a very good game designer. If you don't know him, try to know him. He also has his website is in English and Italian, molleindustria.org. I'm afraid I didn't write it down here, but if you want the spelling, I will give it to you. And he actually writes radical critical video games, web games. And this was one which was called Pedo Priest. And it was about pedophilia in priesthood. And the main aim of the game was averting the police from pedophile priests who were raping kids in this establishment. And it was a very good parody, but what happened was that our server in the States was called by a self-appointed League for the Defense of Minors who asked, from Italy, who asked our server to take down who asked our provider to take down our server because of pedophilic contents. And but in the end, the legals of the provider looked at our pedophilic contents and decided that it was satirical, and that it had nothing to do with pedophilia. So it went back on online. And then there is another legal case, the Norwegian one. And the Norwegian one is the funniest, I think, even if it's the scariest also, because it shows connections between the Italian police and the neo-fascist scene. This is
from the official police.
This is from the official communication of the Italian police to the Norwegian police to ask that our server be copied for an inquiry on threats. And it says, relative to the mailbox orsa@canaglia.net and its relative translation, shebear@scoundrel.net. They didn't even get the plural of canaglia. Anyway. What had happened was that some anti-fascists had written on the wall of a neo-fascist leader from Casa Pound, which is a very scary movement in Italy at the moment. And in a place in the province of Abruzzo, which is a forgotten region of Italy, no one actually knows anything about apart from Italians. And in this forlorn province, the police decided that these walls, this writing on the wall was a threat, a personal threat to this person, and this could justify an international request of rogatory to Norway, and not only to other two countries where our servers were located. Anyway, this happened while in Norway they were discussing about data retention, the loan data retention, so it created a huge hype. And they are still discussing about if we are to be considered a provider or not. And the data have never been given to the Italian police as far as we know. So that's how our history actually ends. Now we don't have had any particular news in the last year. Perhaps fortunately we are still working on things, and Lobo will also talk about what we are trying to develop. We have many projects that we are trying to develop, and some get real and some don't, which is how voluntary projects perhaps work. And anyway, we currently host 11 mailboxes, 1,700 websites, 3,300 mailing lists, and nearly 5,000 blogs on the blogging platform. Apart from that, we offer IRC chat, Jabber IM, instant messaging, an anonymizer, VPN, and other things. And if you want to support us,
Questions?
donations, books. Questions?
Hey, thanks for your talk. One of the tech guys from Occupy London. If we'd known about you guys when we were starting out, we wouldn't have used whatever other tools we just had at our disposal. There are some great links from guys in Indie Media London and Indie Media UK, and guys that were supporting our kind of process. And I wonder, you kind of made some references to Indie Media in your talk, and I wonder, was there crossover with the kind of work that you were doing in the creation of tools and services? Were you kind of competing with or collaborating with Indie Media? Did you see yourselves as making new innovative services? You know, this is the kind of thing I wanted you to talk about.
Many of us were in both projects. Most of us were in both projects and working at both projects, even if they just didn't want to. It made no sense to melt them together. It was two different projects, but many people worked until 2006 and even longer. Some of us have still been in, for example, in the media Tuscany, until now, when it's all the networks of Italy, apart from two, are closing. It's news from last month.
Indie Media London recently kind of closed its doors as well, which was very sad to see. Although there were a number of active technical people in the scene still, it's like almost as though this is like an older community from some protests years past, and there needs to be like a changing of the guards or something, you know, because I never saw the recruitment for volunteers go out to kind of reinvent it, and I wonder if you guys are recycling the roles, or I just trying to understand how it's progressing, you know?
I have some doubts many of us actually have some doubts about the necessity of indie media, the necessariness of indie media just now. Because, I mean, it is a useful tool, but it was much more useful in 2001. There was nothing like indie media in 2001. There was no way you could have open publishing. You had to set up a website and write the HTML, and now you have many different opportunities, and many people use these opportunities, and you don't get a critical mass in indie media. That's my interpretation of what's happening. The volunteers are not there because they don't feel the necessity of being there, perhaps. Sadly, because the other networks are often commercial, but there are some which aren't. Identities.ca, for example, is one which isn't really commercial. To say just one of the possibilities of communicating, not that a tweet can replace indie media. Was that an answer?
Yes, works. You have explained that in Italy the relations between hackers and media activists are very close and described why. In Germany, I think that's very different. Do you have an idea why that is?
Apart from the fact that we have social centers, and in Germany there aren't many. I mean, only Berlin perhaps and Hamburg. And we had a lot of social centers all around the country, which started in the 70s. This may be a reason. The places where we did hacking, the places that were open, were not given by the authorities, which is easier to get in Germany, perhaps, to get the small town to give you a place where you can hack or any like volunteer. I mean, there are opportunities perhaps that in Italy we didn't have, and therefore hackers tended to go to social centers where they had huge spaces to experiment in. But this is open to debate. I mean,
I have a question, but also maybe just to make a comment about your last question, which is that I think that a big difference is that in Italy the social centres in a way they've much wider appeal historically over a lot of different areas of youth culture. So, for example, a lot of the different musical movements that in Germany or in the UK would have found homes in more commercial venues. In Italy, there was no space. That kind of commercial space didn't exist. So all that stuff took place inside of the social centres. In the same way, you know, when the technology, kind of grassroots technology scene started to develop, these were the places where there were the hack labs where you could go and take a course in Linux, do you know what I mean, at the end of the 1990s. And these were also places where you had an existing group of people who were producing local magazines that had some sort of a political background. So I think that there was this sort of strategic nexus that was occupied by the social centres in this respect, so that it became a kind of a crossroads for all of those different elements, which brought people together and also, in a way, contained a public or an initial public for a lot of the things that they were producing. But I have a question, which is, I mean, again...
Today I had a stroll with Lorenzo, who is here, and he told us the story before Autistici, and he told us how they used a 36,000 square meter social center, occupied social center, to create all sorts of experimentation with video art when they still used the Super 8. And I mean, it was the beginning of the 90s, and social centers were hosting artistic experimentations that in other countries might have been supported by a museum. perhaps our underdevelopment.
So yeah, I mean, my question is actually, it's kind of back to indie media, or not only indie media, but I mean, in a way, indie media was like a kind of a culmination of a long history of underground media, right? I mean, of basically what was called at other times counter-information, and you know, the idea that there were stories out there and facts that weren't reported and that weren't brought into the public sphere, and if you could get that type of information into people's hands, that would lead to some sort of political change. I think that was a kind of a narrative about alternative media which existed probably from the 60s until the 90s. So I'm curious, I mean, what you said, that you think that like that indie media isn't so necessary now, and I agree, but what I'm interested in is the fact that I have the feeling that a lot of political groups were almost at the forefront of innovation in communication up until sometime in the early 2000s, and that since then that there's been a major decline, that effectively nothing really emerged to replace the type of spaces of kind of specific, I mean, and in the meantime the type of magazines that existed in the previous print world had all died because people decided that there wasn't any point in doing them anymore because people were getting their information online. So I'm just curious as to what people think actually about what is really the current communication environment and what way one...
It's very chaotic, isn't it? I mean, I don't have the feeling that there is nothing moving. I have the feeling that there is nothing as organized as it was in the 2000, in the beginning of the noughties. But I have the feeling that many little projects are spreading around. And so I wouldn't say nothing is happening, only we need to experiment other forms. But we don't have an answer, do we?
But people are starting to reuse. I mean, yeah. So you said before the paradigm was there wasn't a platform, so now we make a platform. So now the case is that people are using Facebook, Twitter, MediaWiki deployments, and these kinds of things, and it brings with it a new set of challenges. What happens when someone co-opts a Twitter account during the middle of your occupation? What do? Those are the kind of problems we face now. We have the channels. There are interesting dynamics around how you use and share those tools. That's maybe where innovation is required. And how do you access those services which are very popular in an anonymous or distributed way? Like maybe that's why we're seeing more innovation coming around anonymizing proxies or VPNs, or it's getting so the tools that we have good tools now. So how do we keep using them, and how do we make sure they don't get taken away again when they're really critical? So look to the Chinese Communist Party restricting access to things, and if this would be prevalent in more countries. So then VPN services would then be the critical piece of technology which lets you kind of continue. That's probably, yeah, but anyway, there were lots of small projects and they're still going on. Can happily share links about it.
Do you mind if we go back? I mean, if we start discussing about how communication should be structured and what instruments we should use, we could talk the whole night. But we had another small talk about how our infrastructure works. If you are interested, we can go on with that. Yes? Okay.
Okay. So this won't be really technical, but not really too much technical. So, where do we start? So, Obat's talked about how we started in 2001. So basically, what happened is that we gathered at someone else. No, actually, we were in Pergola, Milan, in Pergola, and we took some recycled hardware. And well, sorry, I didn't do good slides as a Obat. Anyway, so obviously this had its own issues because when we didn't basically we didn't were able at some point to withstand with all the requests and all the users that we have. So like if you check now, our website has like multiple address because we have a lot of servers now because as we saw basically we got issues, we got server seized, we got so the more we can put online, the better. With the case of Aruba, actually, so what happened is that I didn't. With the case of Aruba, what happened is we had to rethink somehow the way we presented the data on the internet because we cannot have like all the data on one place, and even if that was encrypted, and we somehow thought that it was better to exploit an experience of basically the police, because what happened is that actually they get to the server that is originating the traffic, or on the server where the page is hosted to. So let's say we have like if we have like a blog on Noblogs, we will this particular blog will be served from one particular IP. So the police authority come to the service provider and then asks for details about that particular IP address. But in our case, we learned several lessons during our history that made us to do some radical changes. So. So we started like in some sort of do-it-yourself way. So like hacking a box and keeping that in an office of a friend of ours. So we could be trusting him. And the problem is that we couldn't trust a provider like we saw. But so we didn't know about until the Aruba case that we could be somehow hit in a fucked by the police in that way. So anyway, what happened is that we started to buy more servers, and we started to do to raise the bar on our hardware, and so that's what. Well, we had to hack a little bit of things to fit the server on the server room, but this is basically one of the first servers of the new architecture that we developed, that so-called R plan. So on our website there is a lot of technical documentation, orange books. I don't want to it's, I mean, it's late, it's 1 hour we are speaking, but to go to the story very short, what we have, this is not an actual representation. We don't have server in that nations, or maybe we have, you don't know. So what happened is that we have a bunch of servers. In our case, it's 3 servers. So those IP addresses that you see here, like they correspond, sorry, to those servers there. So the real data is sitting behind a let's say, wall, and all the communication from where is the data, where the data is stored, all the communication are going through a VPN encrypted. So what happens is basically you cannot really see if, like, from this server there is a connection there. You cannot really identify the connection. So this, basically what happens is that we can be resilient in case we got seized, because our server will be, the front-end servers will be still offering our services. The back-end servers won't be touched by any police authority, and this gives us more time, like, to deal with the issue, not to have like all the issues that we had, because if now we have a situation like the Aruba case, we will have no disruption of the service, and most of all, we will have the all the data safe of all of our user data. All the data is encrypted, so no blogs. Autistici, all the emails are stored encrypted. We, as we said, encourage to download all the emails and such, but and to encrypt your mail if you want secure communication, because we don't want, be your, privacy nanny. You have to learn your tool by yourself, and we do a lot of advocacy. All the chaos tours, all the, in the book actually that we are trying to translate, there are some leaflets here, like with a small story included in the book. In the book there are, all the stories that we spoke about tonight, and I hope that we will translate that soon in English, because we need, to get spread out, all those. This is where we are now. We have this infrastructure, and let's say that we would like to try to find a way, maybe in the future, to do some sort of federation of this kind of service. So, because we have a lot of tools to manage this already wrote, we have like, a bit of experience of dealing in this thing. But the other thing is that we are starting to feeling that we're getting too much responsibility, because I think actually, I don't know, but we have users from, sorry? Yeah, we have users from all around the world. We have, from Germany, but also from Russia, from South America, and it started actually to get a bigger than we actually expected to get. And so this is one of our, basically, yeah.
It's a load we would like to share with other international collectives, given the possibility. So what we would like is to find a way of federating together with other collectives.
Other situations like ours, yeah. And yeah, basically that's it. I didn't want to be really technical on that, but at the end of the day, what happens when we get a server seized, in this case, is that we buy more servers, and that's it. And we don't care, but, well, we do care about the legal issue, but sorry?
We are not worried about...
not too much about security, yes, because, we are worried about security because we host a lot of data, but not too much in terms of resilience of our infrastructure. So I don't know if...
Resilience meaning that what we want to guarantee to users is that they keep communicating even in situations of emergency. So what happens with this multiplication of servers, for instance, to your mailbox, is that if your mailbox was on the seized server, but also on the server which went down for technical reasons, you won't have to wait for us to go to the place and change your server, but in a matter of some hours, your mailbox will be moved as a user, not its content, unfortunately, to another server. So in a matter of hours, you can communicate with other people, even if you might not find the mail which you unfortunately stored on our servers, which we so much advise you not to do.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much that's it. So,
Any other questions?
if there are other questions, we can go forward.
I don't know if it's a really silly question, but you just showed a printout from a shell with like where you requested to resolve some an URL, and then the printout that came back exactly that. I think with a given model, it might be possible if there is an authority that is so corrupt that they can just block any IP address from their country, that they can also control the traffic that's coming in the country. So just block all addresses that show up from the resolved address, and then it's down in some country.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
I mean, given the situation that there is an authority who can like ban traffic from single IPs,
Okay.
which was, I think, the scenario in the image that you showed.
Yeah, yeah. No.
Why wouldn't they just resolve
No,
your
sorry,
URL?
Sorry, I did make a mistake because I didn't explain it. Actually, those I put the country name codes because those are like what we tend to do is we buy collocated servers on those nations. So that's it. That's the thing. Even if if the communication is intercepted, there's nothing you can do. We cannot assure any. Yeah. Because.
Okay, thanks.
That's it.
Yeah.
The thing I was trying to show here maybe is that somehow we try to be resilient, but obviously, because even yeah, we
maintaining access in case of
no.
Yeah, or censorship.
yeah.
We do use SSL with all the limitation that SSL has. We have like our SSL certificate with our certification authority, but at the end of the day, it's been now years that SSL, the S at the end of HTTP, it's fluid. So you cannot really be aware. So encrypt your email with PGP and hope that you sign it to the right key. Because there's not. So basically, that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions or?
I just got in, so maybe it's a really silly question. You actually offer your servers over Tor, right?
We just implemented.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, we did submit the patch to the Tor project because they weren't allowing some way we were configuring the thing. But yes,
Cool.
we have. Actually, I don't remember if. Let me see. Yeah, one sec. I think. One second, because it's quite interesting here. Well, we do have an onion address. I can't find it now, but yes. Anyway,
can ask lots of questions, but maybe if we move closer a bit, maybe then it gets easier to start talking. You just said that you would like to share responsibility and maybe build some kind of federation, and I'm wondering, I mean, there are other independent providers like Rise Up or here in Berlin, SO36.net and many others. Why aren't you?
No, we know them and we talk to them actually, yeah. But the thing is, yes, I mean, we maybe what you were saying, I mean, that why we're not doing this federation with them, or I mean,
I don't really have a ready question even yet. I think you know each other or you know the others, and then I was wondering what is it that you are saying when you're saying we would like to build a federation and
like
where
the thing that we'd like to share is the technology behind that, because like as we said, we don't keep any logging activity of our users, for instance, which is one I mean, good selling point of the whole thing, and then we have built this R plan, and we have a lot of tools. So maybe it would be easier for another like collective that it's more tech savvy, like to, I don't know, take ownership of a project like that and then reproduce it. Or, I don't know. It's something that we are still thinking about it. Let's say so. We tend to do a lot of, I mean, small sub-projects. For instance, we are trying to develop, basically, I don't know if you guys know about the Raspberry Pi. Is this small, so it's a platform, it's a computer, basically. It's a small like this. Maybe it's an Altoid thing or something like that. But anyway, it's a full-fledged computer with a network card and an SD card. So we thought that why we don't build our Autistici into that, and maybe we can, I don't know, start. Sorry. And so we thought about we can use this platform to build like a piece of Autistici that we can give to our user and do something like, I don't know, but you know, it also like the title of the book. It's all chaos. It's all very chaotic. So, and we are trying to keep it in that way. So even this federation idea maybe will happen, maybe not. I mean, it's all up to the people that it's willing to share and to get knowledge. I mean, and it's all about building networks of people sharing relationship. We think so. So.
In the book, we try to explain how this chaos works in a way. We try to explain, we don't have an answer actually, but we've tried to document a bit through the interviews, because I didn't say that this book is based on 15 interviews to people who have participated in the Autistici Inventanti project. Through these interviews, we tried also to explain how this volunteering process works and how it works through mutual self-formation, self-training, mutual learning. It was made up of curiosity and fun more than of sense of duty. So it's always been like this. If a hacker doesn't have fun, she won't work.
I'd say close with this phrase.
How was the reaction to the book in Italy so far? Did you get any reactions to the book in Italy from people who weren't already involved in this movement?
We sold about 800 copies, which is a lot. Obviously, we are not making any money out of it. We are simply, I mean, supporting the project. I mean, we obviously with all those servers, with all those lawyers, we have expenses, and so that's it. So that's actually on the website there is like a small breakdown on how we spend the money. It's kind of hard to keep track of everything, but it works.
We had some good reviews.
Yeah. So.
anyway, the book is going to be published. We are in English. We are talking to a publisher, to a self-managed publisher, to publish it in English so that it can be distributed at least in English-speaking countries, but they sell online. And we would very much like the book to be translated also in other languages, because we think it's an interesting project that could be replicated. Thank you.